Em um clima claustrofóbico, no auge da Segunda Guerra Mundial, soldados russos são encurralados em uma mina abandonada por uma ameaça quase inimaginável: um exército zumbi. Não aqueles zumbis clássicos que conhecemos de filmes como A Noite dos Mortos-Vivos, Despertar dos Mortos ou A Volta dos Mortos-Vivos. Estes foram modificados por um cientista maluco, tendo partes mecânicas incorporadas. Uma nova espécie de ameaça, conhecida como zombots. O convidado de hoje é um artista ímpar. Já dirigiu diversos comerciais, desenhou storyboards para Jackie Chan e atuou com design visual para nomes como Terry Gilliam, de Monty Python, e Stuart Gordon, diretor de diversos títulos de horror, muitos deles adaptações de contos de Lovecraft, como Reanimator e Do Além. Hoje eu vou bater um papo com Richard Raaphorst, criador dos Zombots e diretor do filme O Exército de Frankenstein, onde ele vai falar sobre seu processo criativo, suas inspirações, a polêmica envolvendo o jogo Resident Evil e o seu novo trabalho, os quadrinhos Worst Case Scenario. Então fica com a gente, já deixa seu like, se inscreve no canal e bora curtir o papo. Hello everyone, welcome to Area 43. Today we have Richard Raaphorst, the director of Frankenstein's Army. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation, for being here, Richard.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking me. It's always a pleasure. Still after, 10 years, it's still such a pleasure to talk to people who are, interested in this little movie. I also took the found footage factor quite serious, and I think this is part of that. It makes it more realistic than if you do it in a traditional way. I call it through the eye of God, if you know what I mean. I wanted also to be the audience a part of the war crimes. You know what I mean? Because there are no real heroes in Frankenstein's army. The Russians were no real heroes. They make violence a kind of heroic act, but it's still violence. So I really want to be the audience part of that.
I was watching a clip earlier, and I need to ask you this, because these creatures were so realistic. So what thing came first? The movie, the story about the war, or the creatures? What did you think about first?
That's a trick question, man. Frankly, the creatures came first. The creatures came first because the creatures are walking around in my imagination for years and years and years. And in Frankenstein's army, you just see the tip of the iceberg. I think when I started to draw these kind of monsters when I was a kid, I think 12 years old or something, I kept on designing them. And in Frankenstein's army, you see basically just a selection of all the creatures out there. I have sketchbooks with I don't know how many designs, and so it was really like, okay, what can we do? Let's squeeze as many creatures as possible in this movie, and so we did. And this is the result. This is what you saw. I think a lot of creatures I cannot really are impossible to film because they were so complicated, or an actor cannot get into the suit. But this is what we managed, and the two creatures are popping out, which is Mosquito Man and Propeller Head. And was even considering to put Propeller Head not into the movie because people thought at the time it was too over the top. But I think now I look back and I think, no. This is just a great choice. It has to be the way it's been done. So yeah.
And I realized that a lot of the creatures, the way that they are designed, it seems like they're wearing some clothes and equipment that match the war that were like from the Germany soldiers. But since you worked on the creatures first, did you have to change a lot of the creatures to adapt them to this to become part of the zombies, or did you just design them that way in first place?
I basically designed them straight away, like you see. We made a handbook for the special effects guys and costume designers. They called it the Bible, the Black Bible in a cynical way. It had all the figurines just there. And what we did, we designed, let's say, 6 main creatures, and we just switched costumes from one to the other. So from 6 creatures, we could also make 6 more variations. You had like the hammerhead, It's the same body as some other zombot. So I just created all those loose parts, and we just mixed them through all the scenes. But it only works if you really design them very specifically beforehand. And it was really wonderful. It was really a wonderful technique. And it's like playing with toys, you know what I mean? Just change the head, change the hands, now change the body. And it works really well. It's possibilities.
When you finish that, as a creator, did you feel like, I wish I had more time, or I wish I had more budget to do this and that? Or how did you feel about it?
As a creator, you are never happy. That's dark side of creating something. You know, you always see a possibility to make it better. But it's also because if you just go through this process, there's a lot of mistakes you make, or at least you think. So it's a little learning school. So you always come better out of it than you go into. If I look in retrospect, what I could do better, there are a lot of things. But one of it, I think the Russians just have to speak Russian and not English.
Regarding the zombots themselves and everything, like the costumes, I like them when the camera got really close to them, because one thing is you looking at a monster or something that comes from nowhere, but they're made of real things. You know, it's like you can, in your imagination, those are all pieces that came from something else that you can assemble that way. You know, so that's what makes them more scary to me. You know.
Yeah, and there's also one other thing. They have no weapons. I mean, they have no guns. The Zombies has no guns, so it's all knives and scissors and alternatives. And you only realize that when you think about it, because no one ever asked me the question, why don't they have guns or cannons or rifles? And I think this is one of the great things about them. They don't have that, and I think this is something that sparks your creativity to design them. You know, if they don't have guns, or what do they have?
You have worked on several different movies, right? And in several different roles. You know, having all of this background and all of the and being in the business, do you intend of coming back to that and exploring other options like TV series or something in the web?
Yeah, well, if the opportunity passes by, of course, but I'm not going to fight for it. I'm more like someone who really does what he likes to do. And the market at the moment is so difficult that I don't want to, bring myself into trouble. I'm also working on a science fiction movie right now, which is really going well. And you never know what comes after. If the sci-fi movie goes well, it might open new doors for maybe a series or a sequel, or maybe a movie version of the graphic novel, or something else. It's I'm always open for it, but I'm not going to chase it, if you know what I mean. There are so many things that I like to do as well. I also like to go back, just making paintings again. Really the really simple stuff. Yeah.
I need to ask you this. So, all of the costumes for the Zombots and everything after the movie, did you get them? Do you have them? Like, do you have the Zombots in your home?
Not a single one. No. I wish I had the space, but they are all in the studio of the special effects guys, and some of them are really like standing there like mannequins. The only thing I have are the little figurines from Japan, and I have some fan art. I have those big dolls of Mosquito Man, and people are sending me over those little figurines. They send me posters, masks. I all have those.
No, right.
And I keep. I put them in a special safe. I have this one. I'm now in Spain. I'm not at home, so I cannot show you it. But I have this amazingly detailed figurine of Mosquito Man, which is absolutely fantastic. And you can even take off the mask, and they sculpted the head behind the mask. I didn't even do that. They did it, and it looks fantastic. it's if I ever do something with Obscure Man again, I'm using that figurine as a basis. But yeah, I don't have them at home, unfortunately. The big costumes.
It's a shame. Yes, and
it's a shame. Yes, it's a shame.
I wanted to ask you about that. So the Mosquito Man is one example, right? He looks like a soldier, a really soldier from the army. But I remember watching an interview from you a while ago that you said something about adapting the film, so that you could fit the Zombots for being able to sell it. That initially the idea was not doing it like that, like a World Wars movie, or something like that. But then that's why I asked earlier, because the figurine looks so loyal to that time and to that, that I really thought that maybe there was some kind of adaptation behind it.
It's an interesting question. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. The Netherlands have a real close history with the war, right? So it's really like deep in our culture. So I think the adaptation might be happened in an unconscious way, if you know what I mean. It might not even be that I'm not even aware about it. But even today, I have a job that is related to the Second World War. So maybe it's something we already have in our imagination, and it's just translated that way. So I think the adaptation, maybe it's there, but we are just not aware about it.
That is true.
Interesting question. It's an interesting question.
And there is something, because a while ago I seen, actually not too long ago, 2018, there was this Overlord movie. You probably heard about it.
I heard, yeah. I don't want to judge, or I never saw Overlord. I never saw it. I still want to see it, because I got a lot of reaction of people and fans who are were telling me that it's a copy or that it looks really familiar. But it can be a coincidence, right? It can be a coincidence. But Overlord really looks like an earlier script on my movie, which is really bizarre. But I'm kind of not interested in watching Overlord. I don't know why it is. But maybe it's also because it's so close to my movie that I'm a little bit nervous. I have something like, oh, maybe it's way better than my movie. I don't want to see it.
No, I doubt. But as an artist, as a creator, there is a good side of it, right? I mean, when you see that you did something as good that people are trying to copy, and that happened with a segment of the VHS 94. I mean, I don't know if they copied that, but that looked really good. And I really like that segment.
Yeah.
I like that they captured the idea.
Totally, I totally like it as well. As a matter of fact, there are things in my designs that, like the yellow-black stripes, the industrial stripes. This is something that is really my trademark in my designs, and they use that same trademark also in that little fragment. So if you see that little segment or that little trademark, then they watched at least Frankenstein's Army. But I really don't mind that they got inspired. But there is also this Resident Evil game now out, and they really copied propeller heads, and also the other characters look a little bit like the Zombots, and they also use the yellow black stripe elements. And then I think, this is really clear. This is really a copy. If you even take over the little details, then it's not a coincidence anymore. But then again, I feel more flattered than insulted, or I'm also being inspired by other creatives. I'm also inspired by people like George Lucas or David Cronenberg or George Romero. And maybe I'm also using elements from their movies, you know. So I think it's part of the movie culture. You know, take over bits and pieces from other filmmakers and make them your own. So it might be a good thing, actually.
So when did you start creating those creatures? I mean, you started drawing them first, right?
Now, I think, as far as I can remember, I think that there are two things that sparked my imagination. One was Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back, because I saw those big machines, you know, those AT-ATs in this snow world Hoth. And I saw lobby cards of Zombie Holocaust in the theaters. And they both struck my imagination. Plus, of course, the history we have with the Second World War. And I just connected them together. Like the machinery from the AT-ATs, you know, Star Wars, together with my fear of the rotting, walking corpses. I merged them together and connected them to our history with the Second World War. And this is a theme that is coming back to me over and over and over again. I'm not really a dark person at all. I only create dark art. And I kind of love doing this. So why can it, you know, I get a lot of criticism of people who are saying, you know, why don't you just paint little flowers and, you know, butterflies? And why does it always has to be so violent and dark? And
Europe in general, I felt inspiring. So just being out in the streets, walking, having a coffee or something, that inspires you.
Yeah.
How big was the inspiration that the environment gave to you in your life as an artist?
Okay, I can be very, very specific about this. When we wrote Frankenstein's Army, I had an abandoned village in my head. So Frankenstein was working in an empty village. So we were in the Czech Republic going through scouting locations, and then we discovered this abandoned mining complex. We entered into the mining complex, and I thought, dude, this is so much better than a village. All those machines and the weird architecture and those tunnels and the structures and the textures. Let's forget the village. Let's do everything here in this mining complex. Here is your answer. So walking through an environment has a huge impact on the inspiration. Like you described, walking through Dublin or Barcelona. Everything has impact on your imagination. Now, knowing this, how poor is it if you get your inspiration out of Google? How poor is that if you compare it to walking through a space? And this is also what I've learned, that if you go out, you get so much more than trying to imagine everything behind your desk. You see back now in movies nowadays, you know, everything looks a little bit similar, because I think the people who are trying to look for inspiration are looking at the same reference. And I think we should go out more.
Right. And you were working on the comics as well, right? On the novel.
Because Frankenstein's Army was basically the answer to a project which ended up in development hell, and the project is being called Worst Case Scenario. And Worst Case Scenario has a kind of the same creatures. I call them zombots, because they're a mixture of robots and zombies. Worst Case Scenario got stuck. Then we reinvented them in Frankenstein's Army. But then I did a Kickstarter project to fund the graphic novelization of Worst Case Scenario. So I love working on this. And because I'm not limited to an actor that has to fit in the costume, that's how it starts. It's basically about two young kids, two siblings, who are dealing with the apocalypse. That is what it's about. And of course, it's a worst case scenario, so the end won't be very positive, I'm afraid. But I'm nearly there. I'm nearly towards the ending. So the publication will, I don't know, maybe hopefully somewhere this summer. And then I'm going to maybe do another edition, a special edition of the comic book. Plus, I'm probably going to set up a Kickstarter for a tabletop game, which is also going to be really nice, with tiny little figurines of Zombots, really cute ones. Yeah. So, they keep on coming. They keep coming from the graves.
Richard, I'd like to thank you very much for being able to be
thank
here.
you too, man. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Yeah.
Is there any message that you'd like to send to those that are going to be watching this video?
Oh, yeah. Well, to other, artists or filmmakers or creators or songwriters, anything, just, stay wild and never give up. With these things, you will achieve everything, I think.